Hello out there in the YouTubeverse, Max here. Welcome back to another episode of Paup-up Video. It's from your friends at Supraliminal Films, and I'm talking fast because this is a long episode, and I got a lot to get through, so I don't want to spend too much time with the intro part. Funny story about why we're doing this episode. Dan and I went down to Magic Fest DC to play Pauper, in part. The other part was to enjoy other fun side events, as one does at a Magic Fest now. Dan played Elves, the very Elves list you are going to see him play in this episode, I'm pretty sure. And I played Is It Delver, because duh. And during the course of the tournament, Dan was playing against a fellow named Will, who was playing his Tron deck, and after some rough games, decided that Tron was basically undeal-withable in terms of being able to beat Elves. You can't do it with the Tron deck. Dan politely disagreed, and Will posted his list, or already had his list posted on MTG Goldfish, and we'll share a link down below for that. And Dan said, well, we do this if you're interested in Pauper content, and we'd love to take your list and try to play it on the show and see if we have any better luck and really analyze it and break it down. So lucky me, I got to play with Will's Tron deck. So you're going to see the Tron deck go up against Elves in the hands of a very capable Dan in this. Well, as you watch the matches, you'll realize maybe a slightly less than capable me and Dan in terms of doing proper Paup-up video shenanigans. But overall, we will break down, as always, the deck, the matches, the theory, the strategy, all that good stuff. So stick around, everybody, and I want to talk to you more at the end of the episode about some housekeeping business if you're interested and you follow this series. So hope you dig it. Here we go. All right, let's get into the lands of the Tron deck. I mean, this one's going to be fairly obvious, I think. It's not too much surprise. Urza lands are all in there. We also have Unknown Shores, Remote Isle, Painted Bluffs, Thornwood Falls, Bajuka Bog, and Swiftwater Cliffs. Got to make sure our mana is on point. Colors and lots of colorless mana. Moving on to the creatures. This one's a lot simpler than the lands were. Seagate Oracle, Moldrifter, Mnemonic Wall. Pretty easy. Draw cards, and then use the wall to loop, 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 loop. Give back all your spells. Speaking of spells, time for the spells of the Tron deck. Now this one is just going to be the heavy lifting one here. Ghostly Flicker, Forbidden Alchemy, Flame Slash, Exclude, Essence Scatter, Electrickery, and Condescend. All in various amounts. It's a control deck. These are all control elements, and you can see a little bit of the different spells that we're using here. And now, even more spells. Because there's a lot of them, and we needed multiple slides. Lightning Bolt, Mana Leak, Moment's Peace, Mystical Teachings, Pulse of Marasa, Rolling Thunder, and Prohibit. So you can see one thing Will's doing a little uniquely is his diversity of counter spells. So we got that going on. Let's get into the artifacts of Tron. They kind of do mostly one thing, and that is find land and fix mana. So Expedition Map, Prophetic Prism, Prismatic Lens. Pretty straightforward. Trying to filter, trying to get a little bit of advantage, trying to make sure we have lands at the same time we have all these mass amounts of generic mana. So the total game plan, pretty straightforward. Get our Urza lands, get color fixing lands, and cast a buttload of spells and run our opponent out of town with just raw card advantage. Let's see how it goes. And here we are for game one. I'm going to kick it off with a Painted Bluffs, followed up by an Expedition Map, and pass it on over to Dan. Dan's going to follow up with Forest and Quirion Ranger, and passes it over to me. I'm going to untap. I'm going to draw Urza's Mine. First piece of Urza technology. Obviously, we'll play that. Go ahead and tap those two to pop the map. Looks like it's going to happen at the end of Dan's turn. And he's going to pop in for 1 damage with the Ranger. Follow up, Elvish Vanguard. Quite a good start for him. I'm going to go find a second Urza piece. Need to use the mana. I can definitely see wanting to go ahead and try to find another piece once I've gotten another, so I don't find a redundant piece by accident. But I do think using the mana here against elves and being as efficient as possible is necessary. Immediately punished by getting another tower to go with the tower I found. That all being said, so we're going to go ahead and Prophetic Prism. Draw us what appears to be a power plant. Play the tower and pass the turn. This is a turn where things can go a little crazy for Dan. There's no mana dork to untap with the Ranger, thankfully, but we can still get Forest back if we need to untap something. So he plays a Timberwatch Elf and serves for 3 damage and passes it back to me. And we'll go ahead and draw a card. It will be another Seagate Oracle. Not terrible here, but with the Timberwatch Elf, it becomes a lot worse than it was previously. Power Plant, played to the middle properly. And at this point, I have to do something. We have Tron online, so I'm going to go ahead and Seagate Oracle. Looking at a Power Plant and a Mana Leak, neither of which are too attractive. I take the Mana Leak and follow up with another Seagate Oracle. Plenty of blockers. Gonna need it with that Timberwatch. There's a Flame Slash. A little terrible now that the Timberwatch is there, but the Prismatic Lens is also not stellar here because I really don't need to filter through for that much more. So it's a tricky bit of business here as to what to take. I think the Flame Slash is okay in that it can set off Dan a tempo turn because he'll need to defend something with the Timberwatch. And pretty bad here, lead the Stampede. Not very fun. A lot of cards potentially for the elf deck to reload with, which is going to be problematic. It doesn't put counters on things or anything along those lines yet, but it looks like here we're going to be able to play minimally an Elvish Vanguard. So that's bad news for me. He's going to go ahead and play an Essence Warden, and it looks like he's going to serve for, should be more because the Essence Warden should have triggered that Vanguard. And we'll see if we catch that little move here. He's going to pump the Quirion Ranger and then pump the Quirion Ranger. And I got nothing for that bit of business. No, it looks like we missed it, but we knew but didn't put the counter on because that's only a 2-2 running into a 1-3, but I think we knew that it was pumped up. I think Dan just neglected to move the counter. Or it's still alive. Yep, okay. There it goes. Yeah, we knew it was there. So a little bit of confusion there. Drew another Swiftwater Cliffs to match the one in hand. Not a stellar draw for me, but there's another tower if we need it. Right now it's more about colors than anything else, so we're going to gain a life off the Swiftwater Cliffs and try to hopefully do something a little bit more effective. I mean, there's not a ton of gas in here. There's Moment's Peace and Mnemonic Wall, so that's going to buy us some time. Going to go ahead and attempt to get rid of the Timberwatch. The reason, obviously, is because we want to make sure that Dan can't just throw a bunch of elves into play next turn, and with no mana dorks, actually hitting his land drops, like making it so he can only get to 3 mana, is a bit of a tempo hit. And while I am kind of giving up a Flame Slash to do it, that Flame Slash wasn't going to be any more effective this game. So slowing him down to 1 elf per turn, I think, is a more valuable bit of business. So I'm a little overzealous with that trigger. Yeah, see, okay. No bad Dan. So I think the Flame Slash is worth the tempo hit, because otherwise I would be getting completely rocked by card advantage at this point. Dan going to go ahead and play a Mana Dork, which is going to trigger 3 different elves here. All right, thumbs up. Dan figured out how to hit all his triggers. And here comes a big old Vanguard, a not so big old Essence Warden, and a not so big old Quirion Ranger. Granted, any of them can get pretty big. Gonna go ahead and put a block in front of a 1-drop, perhaps? No. Gonna be in front of the Vanguard. Dan's gonna activate Timberwatch on the Quirion Ranger and leave it at that for effects, which is enough. Odd me tapping the lands one way and the Prism the other way. No damage at all from a Moment's Peace. Really need something big here. An Electrickery would be kind of nice. Not great because the Quirion Ranger could get saved. Really just need a piece of unconditional removal, which the deck kind of doesn't really do. It's mostly a blue-red based build. So kind of looking for cards that don't exist at this point to try to mop up this board state. But we definitely need something to get ahead. We need multiple cards at this point. So we're going to start off with what looks to be a Mnemonic Wall based on the mana. And it is. That's probably going to flash back a Moment's Peace. And that's exactly what that's going to do. Gives us 2 land, a Moment's Peace, and a Mana Leak in hand. Not the worst, but certainly not the best. The Mana Leak can do something, but the Elvish Mystic plus the 3 forests, potentially a 4th forest, is a problem. That's a lot of mana, and the spells in this deck are very cheap. 1 and 2 mana for the most part. We need to snag like a Lissalana Huntmaster or Lead the Stampede. Can't be mana leaked here, unfortunately. Elvis Vanguard is going to be cast. And Dan's just pointing at every elf but the right one. Vanguard comes down. And Nettle Sentinel comes down. At this point, still really can't be mana leaked for actual mana leak purposes. It can be mana leaked for the simple fact that I could stop him from playing another follow-up elf. But I don't know if that's valuable. As valuable as just perhaps countering the next elf if there is one. And right now he's swinging in with a pretty mighty attack force here. Couple options is I can give up the wall and the Seagate Oracle and go ahead and just take the 3 damage, and then obviously he's going to have to start activating his Timberwatch elf to pump things up. And once that happens, my life total unfortunately is low enough I can't force him into untap retaps. I just simply have to use the spells that are available to me. So we're going to go with Moment's Peace cast for the second time. And hopefully we can draw something to get us out of this. Maybe a Mystical Teachings here to try to find a way out. Because like I said, it's going to take multiple cards to dig us out of this hole. We'll see what we draw for turn here. Start off with an Essence Scatter. Not great. Not great. Play another Tower of Power. Dan knows he's well in control of this game. 2 counter spells with a board full of stuff is just not going to get there. It's unfortunate truth here. We need something. Like this turn, that Essence Scatter kind of needed to be a Ghostly Flicker, I think, for the game to actually get underway. But even just one Ghostly Flicker, we'd have to find another. It'd have to be like Mnemonic Wall with another Ghostly Flicker, or with the Ghostly Flicker in the yard to keep Ghostly Flickering and repeating and things like that. Here come the clowns. A lot of clowns. Laffy Daffy clowns. Again, we'll declare our blocks. Kind of want him to use the Timberwatch activations to try to kill me. Not that it means a ton, but it means we can't do like tap, untap, tap shenanigans. And that it has some minor value. There's no harm in me doing it this way is basically the point I'm trying to make. So I might as well make him extend even just part of a resource. And there's the unfortunate flashback, and that's kind of close to the game. because tain't much left in the tank here. I have to rip a Moment's Peace to start. Like, has to kind of start. Next draw has to be Mystical Teachings or a Moment's Peace. Something like that to kind of follow up. Here's a Lead the Stampede. Can't be mana leaked, unfortunately. It'll be mana leak for tap 2. And then boop. Yep. But it means he won't be able, again, like the Flame Slash earlier, it means that Dan won't be able to immediately recast a bunch of elves, whatever amount he finds. So there's some value there, but follow-up Essence Scatter not looking too good in the face of a buttload of elves, including a Timberwatch. There's just too much power here. Like I said, it really has to start with a Moment's Peace, kind of being the hit. And here is an Elvish Mystic, which it looks like I'm going to go ahead and snap off an Essence Scatter on. So that's going to stop a bunch of triggers from happening. Not a huge deal, but I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this next turn for the most part. It's going to, again, starts with a Moment's Peace is really the draw here. Mystical Teachings would also do it. Island does not, and that's the game. Time for the sideboard for the deck, and it's not too complicated. We are taking out Condescend, putting in Moment's Peace, Stonehorde Dignitary. Less clunky counterspells, more ways to keep us alive. Next game. All right, everybody, hold on to your butts for game 2. I'm going to start off with a Sweetwater, Catfish Fingers, Cliffs, and Gain a Life. Dan's going to follow up with Forest plus Elf, Birchler Rangers to be exact. I'm going to go to my untapped step and draw a Mystical Teachings. Could have sorely used that last time. Tower of Power, not played to the eyeball. Way to go, me. You've seen me play before. You know how it goes. Dan plays a Forest. And Sylvan Ranger, which is going to be met by a Prohibit. Not a great one, but if he casts that Ranger, he gets a land if he doesn't have another. And he can tap. He can tap for another additional mana, which could potentially cast another elf. So I think it's worth kind of holding on to. Electrickery, quite the draw. Going to play a mine. They call it a mine. And Flame Slash on the Birchler Ranger. Trying to clear house. Again, any elf that gets drawn on this next turn with the Birchler out immediately can start tapping with it for mana, which is problematic. And it is also one of the few ways to get to a blue source for Distant Melody. So that's a bit of a problem. Dan's going to go ahead and punish maximally by leading the Stampede. And luckily, only finds 2. Not the worst. Vanguard plus Nettle Sentinel. Not the worst, for sure. I'm going to untap and draw Urza's Power Plant, which will give me the natural Tron. The Au Natural Tron. Just like every other Tron player. So plenty of mana to work with, very little in the way of colors. So this gives me the opportunity to hold up a couple of things. And here's where, if I remember correctly, I think is a bit of a misstep on my part. Elvish Vanguard. And taps 2 more. Elvish Vanguard. Now, with this trigger on the stack, what I should have done is cast the first Elvish Vanguard's trigger on the stack. I should have cast the Electrickery and overloaded it. If I recall correctly, and it's been a minute since I played this game, if I recall correctly, I was mistaken on Electrickery's overload costing an additional red. In my head, for some reason, it was a double red overload, even though it's just colorless red instead of red. It was a bit of me being an idiot, so I'm pretty sure that's why I did not go with that line. Instead, I went with the Mystical Teachings. But the good news is I can break up the Mystical Teachings. And one thing I didn't do was I revealed it to the camera. It was a lightning bolt. And I didn't reveal it to Dan. I must have just told him. So that's pretty funny. But I didn't, strictly speaking, did not reveal it to Dan properly. So there was that little bit of business. Draw a Remote Isle for the turn. Immediately go ahead and cycle that into a Rolling Thunder, which is quite good with Tron Online. Still need another, legitimately need a red source for that. And now, unfortunately, I'm in the camp of trying to break up Vanguards one at a time, which it still can be done, but definitely would have been better to just overload that Electrickery with that trigger on the stack. Is part of, was a pretty big misstep. So we'll definitely hope that I can work my way out of it. But we'll see as the game progresses, because Dan's now got a 3/3 attacking Elvish Vanguard, who serves up for 3 damage, knocks me down to 18 with that 1 life gained. Nope, 17 because I got attacked with a Birchlore Ranger. This is why I don't keep track of the life totals. Also why I'm bad at playing things to the eyeball. So there's another life gained. Woohoo. Got there. And I passed the turn. Still no flashback on that Mystical Teachings available because I don't have a black source. So that's a bit problematic. But here come the clowns. Coming in for 5. 6, 7, 8. As Dan did the math there for us. And we pass, unfortunately, without casting a single spell. Dan also, importantly, did not cast a spell. Ghostly Flicker will be nice later on, but is not very good right now. Looks like it's going to be a Rolling Thunder here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the rest go upstairs. That clears things out nicely, but I'm tapped down, can't overload any Electrickery. But that's still not bad. I needed both the red sources to do the Rolling Thunder, so there was no way to hold up the Electrickery. So, a bit of a problem there, for sure. And I don't know what I'm contemplating here. Okay, Dan's just taking his turn. I was like, am I contemplating something? Because I'm tapped out. Maybe I was contemplating how sweet Rolling Thunder is. Doesn't feel like a common, right? Didn't look like a common right there. Jeez. Card's Bwonkas. Untap our land. Draw a card. It is a Moment's Peace. Got a Ghostly Flicker, a Moment's Peace, and Electricity. A lot of reaction. No utility, no card draw. This would be that would have been a perfect turn for a Muldrifter. Dan hits his blue source, and he's going to lead a Stampede. Kind of bad news. The hope is that maybe he hits a lot of 1-butts, and I can pick off a really nice Electrickery here. The one nice thing about not having used the Electrickery is I still have it. So maybe we can kind of mitigate the damage from this. This is big. He's going to unfortunately play that Elvis Vanguard first, guaranteed. Then I have the option of, do I pick off Vanguard plus addition? So do I drop these 3 Elves? The Quirion Ranger is the one that scares me the most. So if he follows up with Quirion Ranger, I think it might be worth firing off. But unfortunately, he goes for Llanowar Elf. So you can tell here I'm thinking, obviously. Because that trigger on the stack could be an Electrickery overloaded. Well-Wisher here. And probably the Quirion Ranger off a Birchlore tap. Oh, he shouldn't tap the Birchlore. He should have tapped something else. He's slow rolling that Ranger. Oh, he's realizing it. Summoning Sickness. He could get in for a point of damage. Not bad, not bad. So the Quirion Ranger lands. This allows me to pick off quite a few Elves. And see, I think that's why, I'm pretty sure that's why I thought it cost 2 red, because you see me there tapping 2 colorless mana more than I need for that card. So I think in my head it was just for some reason red to overload it. So we got to pick off the board, and now we have to deal with 1 Elvish Vanguard. Can't Ghostly Flicker because I can only hit things that we control. Expedition map, not spectacular here. Land is kind of not what we're in the market for. One of the unfortunate drawbacks of Pauper is you have very few lands that are what I'll call spell land that do something interesting. But the one thing that this Expedition map does do that's pretty sweet is it lets us get one of our Unknown Shores filtery type lands. So that's pretty cool. So we have the Unknown Shores there, and that will let us tap for black, which means we can flash back our Mystical Teachings, which is super duper important. And we're going to play to the eyeball because, you know, finger guns. But now we have full flashback going on. Pretty good stuff here. Dan rips a lead the Stampede. And now this is where I think the problem of the shortcoming with the deck, the only shortcoming I think that the deck has, is going to come up right here in this moment. And it's going to be that I'm going to tutor for a counter spell to deal with this lead the Stampede. And I'm going to find out, unfortunately, that there's no counterspell, if I recall correctly, that there's no counterspell that's properly equipped to deal with this particular Lead the Stampede. Because the only one in the main that can do it is Prohibit, which I've already cast on the Sylvan Ranger. So I'm futzing about with my mana. Because, a bunch of extra mana. And again, I'm not a super new pilot. Or I'm not a super experienced pilot of this deck. I'm a relatively new pilot. I've played it, for fun, casually played it. But I've never played it in a tournament or important kind of setting. So I'm going to grab Exclude from the deck. And very impatient Dan wants to resolve his spell as the aggro player does. So there's no counter spell here now that the Prohibit's been cast that can deal with the Lead the Stampede. And you can see Dan, again, flush with creatures. That Lead the Stampede was an amazing draw from him. I could have probably dealt with a trickle-down series of, critter, 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 critter. So he knows I have the Exclude because I completely, showed it to him directly. So he played the Lissalana Huntmaster, which is, possibly a misplay, but I'm not sure. I'm not much of an Elves player, so I don't know if it was better to try to just fire off a bunch of little Elves. And then Lissalana Huntmaster maybe next turn and force me to try to use the Exclude beforehand. Because also you get a bigger hit in here. But 5's still a meaty thunk. There's no question about that. So now I'm going to move to my untap step. We need to find an answer here. And we draw a Seagate Oracle, which is okay. Still not really enough to use a Ghostly Flicker. But we get the Seagate Oracle down. Hopefully maybe we can find a little gas here. We get an Urzaland and a Prismatic Lens. Lens is okay. It'll filter land. It'll filter mana. It's not great, but I think it's better than an additional Urzaland. I think the color at this point is more important than the raw mana. Because plenty of colorless at this point. We can tap for 6 off towers. 10 with the 2 power plants, 12 with the mine. So just in Urzaland, we can produce 12 colorless mana. What we really are stuck for is being able to play multiple spells in a turn of various color. Dan's going to play a Quirion Ranger. Double trigger. Pretty good start. Quirion Ranger is secretly one of the best Elves in the deck. And I think the better you get with the Elves deck, the more you realize this card is freaking bonkers. Because, man, it does a lot of heavy lifting. The ability to just simply recur, make a land drop. I'll play a 1-drop. I don't have a second land, but I'll bounce one back to my hand and play a second 1-drop. Is crazy. And it does that kind of, quote-unquote, through Summoning Sickness. Because it's not a tap ability. It's just a once-per-turn ability. Which is crazy. So you can go, play a forest, play a man, play an elf. Next turn, play a Quirion Ranger. Bounce your forest, replay the forest, play another elf, tap your first turn mana elf, play. So it's just, you can get so much value. It's crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and Moment's Peace with Dan's help to prevent all the damage here. And he's going to pass the turn over to me, who needs some help. Swiftwater Cliffs. Not much in the way of help, and not much on the eyeball. Hey. So we know we have another Moment's Peace in hand. We know we can flash back a Moment's Peace. Dan's going to play a Sylvan Ranger here. Try to run us out of town. Thin his deck of some mana. I think there's only 12 or 13 lands that get played in these Elves decks. So he's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now 9 land in his deck, which is crazy. And that's most of his lands. So really the odds are very low on him drawing a land during the rest of this game. So what's next? Forest. There's even more land. So 7, 8 land, I think, is the count. And here comes the clowns. One big clown, several other small clowns. All fit in one car. We are going to flash back Moment's Peace. Filter 1 mana through the Prismatic Lens. So 2 colorless and a green. Going to untap it up. Draw a mole. Oh, thank God, a mole drifter. Oh, thank God. Thank God I need that mole drifter. Not in love with paying 2 blue for that. But we'll draw a mine and a rolling thunder. That's kind of what the doctor ordered. Now, there's only 2 rolling thunder in the deck. So, played the mine to the middle. We have to really hope to set up. Dan gets a trigger off of his Essence Warden from the Mole Drifter getting played. So now the position is not only can I, it's kind of not necessarily do I wipe his board. It's do I try to win the game with this Rolling Thunder? Dan's close. He's in range. The Essence Warden is now the most problematic permanent on the board for me to win the game because I have to get around all this life gain. So this is an issue. And he is going to serve with a metric poop ton of elves. And we're going to arrange our blocks. This might be a block ghostly flicker. I could definitely see that over necessarily using the moments piece. Looks like that may be the case. We're going back to the hand. And a ghostly flicker incoming on both the Seagate Oracle and the Mole Drifter. So I valued the cards off the Seagate more than I valued the Mole Drifter. So we're going to resolve one of these. Seagate first. Okay. Mole Drifter and Prophetic Prism. I would take both of those cards, but we're going to take a Mole Drifter. And now the Mole Drifter will trigger and likely not give us 2 good cards. Because, that's the luck here. It is a Mystical Teachings. Oh, okay, that's fine. I'd take both of those cards too. Prophetic Prism's a redraw and more filtering for the color. You can see now why they call it Rainbow Tron, right? We have green cards. We have a card that has blue and black in it. A lot of stuff going on here. Is this going to be a Mystical Teachings? Yes. Okay, there you go, buddy. Play it to the eyeball. There you go, past me. Good work. We're going to find something. Forbidden Alchemy. Okay, so we're just valuing at this point more cards. Kind of like when you Teachings for a Teachings. We're just running out of instance. At this point, we need to find something else to kind of gas us ahead. So the good news is with the various filter lands, we can go ahead and use the Forbidden Alchemy here, which is kind of nice. So let's go ahead and resolve that alchemy and see what we can find. Tons of cards. So many cards, I'm throwing them on the ground. That's how many cards there are right now. Cards are flowing. Pulsa Marasa. Urza's Power Plant. Urza's Power Plant. Urza's Mine. Nothing great. Though the Urza lands kind of look attractive because we can certainly use the Rolling Thunder. The other option there was to pulse back. Get Pulse to pulse back a Rolling Thunder. Like maybe this turn wipe the board of troublesome permanents from Dan and then use a Pulse to pulse back the game-winning Rolling Thunder. That is certainly a line, and that's the thing. Once the deck kind of takes off, the deck being this particular deck, once this deck starts to take off, there you go, right to the middle, it's really so flush with options. Now you can see I'm getting aggro. I'm going in with the Mole Drifter, going in hot with the Mole Drifter. Flame Slashing and Essence Warden. Gotta stem that life gain. I'm trying to kill you. I aim to kill you. So the follow-up to that, looks like it's going to be another Mole Drifter. Yes, another Mole Drifter. So we get to draw yet more cards. Start with Mole Drifter. So all the Mole Drifters and Prophetic Prisms were just kind of in the middle of the deck, apparently. I mean, I'll take it. There's more cards. I love cards. And like I said, it's Pauper, so it's not like I'm going to find a bomb rare or like some mythic that's going to clean up all of Dan's permanents. That's just not going to happen in this format. The closest thing to a sweeper we have is like Evankar's Justice and Electrickery. So the only way I'm going to beat Dan is by overwhelming him in terms of how many resources I can get versus he can get. Another Prophetic Prism. Yeah, they were literally all chunked up in the middle there. Wow. Okay. Another Prophetic Prism. These aren't going to net me mana, but these are netting me cards and helping me filter if need be. And we already played the Mine this turn, so we can't play a land. But we still have plenty of filtering effects. We can play a Muldrifter. We're going to draw, and we need to leave mana up for this Moment's Peace here, I think. So we are getting pretty darn low, and Dan can womp us pretty good. So it looks like we have Tower of Power plus a filter. So we are good on Moment's Piecing. Gains a life, puts a counter on the Elvish Vanguard here. Another thing Dan can do is he can get more triggers on the Essence Warden, but I don't think he's seeing a Rolling Thunder coming yet. I think Dan's still in the position where he can go ahead and just run me down and win the game that way. This Moment's Peace is going to slow him down quite a bit. So we'll see if I can cobble together the Rolling Thunder here. I technically have one more turn if I need it of setup. So that's not the worst. But I don't think I need it. This is going to be quite a big Rolling Thunder. Plus we get in for 4 to start the turn initially with a pair of Muldrifter attacks. Okay. It's funny how much mana this deck really wants. Or 6 damage with Muldrifter attacks. So 6 damage. Even the Seagate's getting in. Now Dan's got to know something's up. When I'm throwing the Seagate at him, he's got to know something's up. Yeah, get him. 6 Muldrifter damage, tapping literally everything. Except for the Prophetic, or the Prismatic Lens. Get that Prismatic Lens tapped. What are we doing here? Oh, this is interesting. Are we not winning the game on this turn? Oh, we're going to leave it to redundancy off the Muldrifters. Okay, so I can't get quite enough damage into lethal here. So it looks like I'm going to just go upstairs with a big one and leave just enough up to flash back the Moment's Peace. So that's okay. So the inevitability is going to come by way of Muldrifter attack. So 1 to that, the rest to Dan. That's a big thunder. And I'll casually pass the turn with inevitability and hope that's enough. And it is. All right, and this is it. The last game, the decider. I managed to snatch victory from the jaws of my own stupidity in Game 2. Let's see if I can pull one out in Game 3. So this is a pretty mixed hand. It's got some action. It's got some land. It can definitely get there. I'm going to gain a life off of Swiftwater Cliffs and pass it back to Dan, who's got the Quirion Ranger. Great start out of the Elves deck. Definitely one of the best. Follow up with something like Priest of Titania. We're in trouble. He's tapping a single green, using the Ranger to bounce a green. This was what I was talking about last game, to pay for a 2-drop. There's the Titania. Removal spell here would be clutch. It looked like my hand was pretty flush with blue cards. He's going to attack me and put me back down to 20. So I'm going to draw Painted Bluffs. Yeah, there's unfortunately no removal here. So I have virtually nothing on the second turn, which is a big problem. The Priest of Titania is going to be out of control with the untap. If he has a single mana elf, I'm in a bad way no matter what. Oh, good lord. Quirion Ranger is one of the worst things that could have happened, because there's 3 mana. Bounces a forest. Untaps the priest. Replays a forest. That's 4 mana right there. Lissalana Huntmaster. That is real bad. Taps again for 4 mana. Plays a priest, which will trigger the Lissalana Huntmaster. Plays an Elf Warrior or gets an Elf Warrior token. Plays a Sylvan Ranger, which triggers the Lissalana Huntmaster. And it looks like I'm going to go ahead and condescend for 1. Which Dan lets happen. He could have untapped and retapped the priest one more time. But I don't know how valuable that is. And neither of these are great. I don't know if that's an Urza piece I'm missing off the top of my head or not. But I'm pretty sure it is. And I'm pretty sure I have a filter land. So I don't think I need the Unknown Shores as much as I need the Urza land. So we'll see what I take here in a moment. Take the filter land. Or nope, put the filter land on the bottom. Okay, filter land on the bottom, Urza land on top. I have so little time right now. Right now there's so, I mean, I would be surprised if Dan doesn't use this Ranger to untap the Priest and go for. He's got 2 cards in hand. There's got to be other stuff to cast here. Yep. This Priest just taps for so much mana. 3, 6, 7 mana right now. That is, it's a lot. Sylvan Ranger, number 2. Ranger. My hand is terrible I mean, not terrible. I mean, there's an exclude in there. It's just slow. Like, what am I going to do here? There's not a lot. And this is, I think, the stumbling blocks a lot of Tron players hit against the aggro decks of the format, is you're kind of having this battle with yourself early game to get your Tron lands on. It's almost like you're playing Solitaire for the first few turns, then you're playing Magic with your opponents. This really weird deck where you're kind of like, I'm going to play Solitaire like I'm a combo deck over here. Now that I'm done that, I'm going to play actual, factual, interactive control Magic and try to fight you that way. It's a really strange deck. I can definitely see why it's powerful because you can do, or popular because it's so powerful. It can do so many powerful things. But at the same time, it's a little bit clunky, especially when an early aggro deck kind of is going to pressure you heavily that way. Pressure your life total. It makes it pretty tough. There's the power plant that I put on top. So that's mine. So the power plant guarantees I will hit Tron. I just don't know what that's going to do. So there's a lot of options, none of which are thrilling options at this point. I have to try to parse together something. There's just so much damage coming in right now. We got 3 Elf Warrior tokens in the Huntmaster representing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 potential damage if Dan swings all out. And here I am playing a 1/3. Well, let's see what it can find us. Another Oracle or a Muldrifter. Muldrifter's okay. Like, it's not horrible. Seagate's okay. It's not horrible. I'm taxed on colored mana again. Because, again, we're playing that sub-game. Without the Prophetic Prisms, things get a little tough. Now I pass it over to Dan, who's going to pick up a card to accompany his 1 forest. Play his 1 forest. Taps for just basically infinity mana. 9 mana, as he's kindly pointed out there on screen. Lead the Stampede, and this is basically game over. If he hits more than 1 elf here, I can't see a way I get back into this game. Okay, hit 2. One's a Birch Lure, one's an Elvish Vanguard, so it's pretty good. You can cast them. We know that. Plenty of mana to do so. Gonna play that Vanguard there. Trigger the Lissalana Huntmaster. And Birch Lure Ranger, trigger Lissalana Huntmaster, trigger Elvish Vanguard. Pretty good. A lot of permanents out for the elf player. It's 4 permanents on my side of the board. And the elf deck currently way ahead of me on mana, currently way ahead of me on resources. I just don't see a way out of this. The doors just seem so firmly shut. There's no way to double spell. There's no way to, like, remove everything. There's just too much. Like, an overloaded Electrickery would be a start, but we would need, like, 2 of those in 1 turn to be able to take out the Priest of Titanias to at least be able to stick Dan on mana and get rid of all his 1-drops. That'd still leave us with a Lissalana Huntmaster out. And that'd be problematic in and of itself. And Elvish Vanguard would go down like a sweet muffin in that, but there's just nothing. Like Rolling Thunder, we don't have enough red mana to really do. I just don't think there's enough time to get past this. We have the Tron, so we're up to 8 mana. But that just doesn't mean a whole lot. A little scary tap, I guess, there. Muldrifter gets us the Rolling Thunder and the Ghostly Flicker. 2 great cards, no question. One more turn, it'd kind of be a little bit of a horse of a different color, but I don't think I can survive this attack. There's so many creatures on the other side of the board there. So many creatures. I mean, when your elf opponent is willing to just throw away Quirion Rangers, you know things have gone very poorly. All that off single forest. There's just so much. It's so big in terms of how many resources there are. The one nice thing is this may disincentivize, the Lissalana Huntmaster to attack because of a double block. But if Dan just simply swings lethal past, I can't afford fancy things like double blocks. I have to preserve my life total so I don't lose the game. So there is that. Let's see how the blocks go. Priest and Vanguard get blocked. 8, 9, 10. And Seagate Oracle and Priest. Priest dies. We need something. Power Plant's not going to do it. I don't know if there wasn't necessarily a land that would help much there, because there's a lot of filter lands in here. There's no like basic mountain. So I think we have to play the Painted Bluffs and try to Rolling Thunder for as much as possible here, which is 8. Minus 2 is 6, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we mow through a lot of the board, but not enough of the board to save our lives. And Dan simply untaps, draws his card, and goes to combat. Eventually, I declare 1 block and die. So that's the end of the match. Now I want to try to keep it very brief because I just did this once and it took like 7 minutes. So I can't take that long. Gotta hurry up. This is the end of this episode, the end of a season. We're moving to a seasonal model because 2 reasons. 1, the format's totally different. It's totally different now. The unification, Modern Horizons, and the banning of the cards in the previous Paup-up video we did all lead to a format that's markedly different than it is even in this video. The Elves deck's the same. The Tron deck is quite different now. You get it. So that's the first reason. The second reason is because the production takes a minute. It takes time, it takes effort, and we want to redo all the graphical elements of Paup-up. We want to do a new intro. We want to do all these cool things. We have a whole different look we want to do for it. We want to make it awesome looking for you. More awesome than it is, because it's pretty good. So we're going to work on that during the downtime and bring that back early 2020 for a brand new season of Paup-up video, which should be pretty sweet. So look for that. You're here already, so look for it here where you're at already. And then more good stuff coming. We have all kinds of the usual stuff that we have, our, arena videos, other board game stuff, video, 1, 2, 3 shoots, movie stuff, film fakers, all that good stuff still coming your way. And the live streaming that we do every week. We do the live in-person streams. We do the arena streams every Sunday. So check that out. It's twitch.tv/Supraliminal You can find us there. Supraliminalfilms.com. Every single where that you look. Real quick to this game. I don't want to touch on it too long because, again, the last time I recorded this was like 6 minutes. And that's too long. I'm already at 2 minutes almost, so that's too long. But I don't have a whole lot to say other than this is a tough matchup. The counterspell suite that Will has in here is a little rocky, in my opinion. I have no other deck building criticisms other than I would go less specific counters. And I know counterspell costs blue, but I would heavily recommend counterspell because just countering a spell is a lot nicer than countering, even if it's just 2 counterspells and then a couple silver bullet counters. That's fine, but having all silver bullet counters was really brutal against this Elves deck. So that was the only place I felt like, from a deck building perspective, the deck really stumbled. Other than that, it's just Tron trying to do the Tron thing of, I have to get all my Tron lands and then hurry up and do stuff. So I don't think there was any problem inherent other than just, I would shore up my counterspell suite a little bit better. But obviously now Arkham's Astrolabe's on the table and all kinds of things have changed. So this is a little bit, the part of the reason why we're going to switch over. But there you have it. As always, if you haven't subscribed, do it. If you like it. I mean, that's cool, but I'd rather you subscribe if you haven't to be honest. And you can find us everywhere, as I said earlier, supraliminalfilms.com. And until next time, you gotta cast more spells.